Hey, welcome. Welcome, everyone. So glad you stuck around. Took me a minute to get started today. How about that? It is October 20th, 2023. It's a Friday, a Fact Check Friday. I got a great show for you in store. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the show. My name's Tom Coffey. I'm at all the sites at Coffee and Nuance. We're streaming live right now on YouTube and on Rumble, rumble.com/coffeeandnuance/live. But let's get to it, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? You know, there's something that's been bothering me lately. And it's not just the fact that my hair is getting a little grayer by the day. It's this whole phenomenon of alternative news. You know, websites and channels that claim to be the rebel voices, the ones who've seen through the matrix and have uncovered the truth. The corporate media just doesn't want you to know. Guess what? Sometimes alternative news isn't any better than corporate news. Let me tell you why. You see, alternative news can be a lot like that one friend who only reads the headlines but never the actual articles. Yeah, you know who I'm talking about. The kind of person who thinks they're well informed just because they can repeat a catchy headline. That's not news, that's gossip. I mean, come on, it's 2023. We've got the entire world's knowledge at our fingertips. You'd think that with the internet and all this access to information, we'd be better at separating fact from fiction, but no. Some of these alternative news outlets and commentators are still peddling wild conspiracy theories, half-baked ideas, and blatant falsehoods. All in the name of exposing the truth. Yeah. So why bother verifying information or reading the entire story when you could just repeat a sensational headline, watch the clicks and shares roll in? It's like a modern day version of yelling fire in a crowded theater just to see people panic. Now, don't get me wrong, folks. I'm all for holding mainstream media accountable. They got their own set of problems. Sensationalism, bias, sensationalism, and did I mention sensationalism? But here's the thing. The solution to bad journalism isn't more bad journalism. It's not pretending like you're the only one with the truth and everyone else is a hack, even if it looks that way. Alternative news, you got to do better. Stop with the cherry-picked facts, the out-of-context quotes, the over-the-top fear-mongering, and in this age of information, we need more critical thinking, more nuance, and more respect for our audience's intelligence. In the end, folks, we need to demand better of our news sources, whether it's corporate or alternative. Let's not settle for catchy headlines and half-truths. Demand the whole story, the real facts, and a little less narrative with our coffee. Because as they say, the truth shall set you free, but only if you actually bother to look for it. My name's Tom Coffey. This is the Coffee and Nuance Show. Best censored commentary news show live right now. Flame on. Oh yeah. Little tough getting going today. That's the way it is, though, you know. Things operate that way. I want to talk about where people get their news. And I'm rather frustrated by it. And I'm going to give you an example today. And it has to do with RFK Jr. and whether or not he had some reparations or he approves of reparations. And how many people, many YouTube commentators, many popular people on Twitter, they see a headline, they go, oh, well, that's it. And these are the same people that are critical of the media for lying to them. And they don't get it. They don't see that they're fools, that they don't read the whole story. They look at the headline. They retweet. They make snarky comments. And they don't even bother to find out whether or not they're saying is true or not. So, case in point, let's talk about RFK Jr. and let's do a little fact checking, shall we? So, let me just show you the. I'll just show you the story real quick here. Man, look at this. New York Post. RFK Jr. comes out in favor of reparations, carving out lane to Biden's left. Okay, and it's by Dana Gibova. Okay, she's a brand new writer out there. Let's just find out who she is. She's a campaign reporter for the New York Post covering the presidential election. She joined the Post in last month after working as a White House correspondent at the Daily Caller. Okay, so conservative, right-wing, Tucker's old outlet, and previously reporting at the National Review. She's a graduate of Columbia University. Okay, that's a shock. And we can look at her X profile here, and she says, campaign reporter, Robert Novak Fellow. So she's letting you know right off the bat who she is. She's old school, establishment, conservative person, or at least that's who's paying her. Okay, so, so that's the story, and that's the headline, and you see that headline, and what do you think? You think, oh my God, RFK Jr. He's gonna be cutting checks to anybody that's African American and anyone black in this country. They're getting a check from RFK Jr. He's buying votes, baby. That's what he's doing. Well, that's what you might believe if you just read the headline. That's what you might believe if you watch someone like, I don't know, who's this guy? Tim Pool. Let's see what Tim Pool has to say here.
Now we have the story, actually. RFK Jr. comes out in favor of reparations, carving out lane to Biden's left. So, about that. When RFK Jr. announced he was running, what did he say? He was talking about Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. And I'm like, I don't see how any Trump supporter or anti-woke independent is going to vote for this. It's going to be Democrats who don't like Joe Biden, think he's too old and incompetent, who are going to vote for the likes of RFK Jr. And now that he's coming out for reparations, you better believe it. But they'll keep running that story claiming that it's hurting Trump. Now we have the story, actually. RFK Jr. comes out in favor of reparations, carving out lane to Biden's left. So, about that. When RFK Jr. announced he was running, what did he say? He was talking about Indigenous Peoples Day instead of Columbus Day. And I'm like, I don't see how any Trump supporter or anti-woke.
Let me clear that off. I have this thing. I'm still trying to figure out how I can do this best. I probably need an earpiece, because if I play the piece for you, I can't hear it. That's just kind of how things are set up. That's weird. Still trying to figure that out. Yeah, Tim Pool, by the way, he has more views on this video, on this one video, than my channel does this year. Okay, so he's got a lot of influence. And he's sitting there reading the story, and he only reads the first line. That's it. And then he gives his commentary on it. If he'd actually read the whole article, he might see, here we go. Down here, paragraph 3 has spoken out in favor of issuing federal dollars to rebuild black infrastructure like banks and businesses, rather than a no-strings cash giveaway. And he made that very clear. Now, how hard would it be to figure out exactly what he said? Well, I can scroll down here in the New York Post article and look. Here is the video in question. This is from July, okay? So just think about this for a minute here. The claim, this is brand new breaking news. RFK's in favor of reparations. What's the evidence? An interview from July that's had over 100,000 views. Does that even sound legit? So I just want to do a quick refresh on fact checking, and here's how we do it, right? What's the claim? Well, in this case, the claim is that RFK Jr. supports reparations. That's the claim. Okay? Now, when we look at a claim, we don't want to be just literal, right? What we want to do is we want to have a good faith understanding of what the claim is, meaning, what would most people think of that claim? If the claim is that someone supports reparations, most people would probably go with the definition of a reparation, which is the making of amends for a wrong one is done by paying money to those that have been wronged. So when most people hear reparations, what do they think? They think getting some cash, getting a check, right? So the claim is that RFK supports reparations. The source, and again, this is key, this is an interview from July, okay? And this is, he was on they're sitting in a barber shop. It's an interview show. And this is a very popular YouTuber, although I can't remember his name. Hoffa, something like that. This is from July. So this is not breaking news. Well, the evidence, we're going to look at the video here in just a second. But this is the problem when you get your news from people on YouTube that just kind of read headlines, okay? So here's the next example that I have, and this is from Scott Adams. By the way, I love Scott Adams. I have his latest book. I think he's a really bright guy. But when he talks about the news, it's clear to me he doesn't actually read the articles. He looks at headlines, he sees things on X, and then he draws his conclusion from it. He doesn't even look into it. Even though his whole shtick is about persuasion and fake news, right? He's really into fake news. He's repeating fake news here. In fact, this is what he said.
Well, in surprising news, but maybe not so surprising, RFK Jr. Has come out in favor of reparations. Reparations. Now, here's what's interesting about that. That takes him down to 0 Republican votes, doesn't it? Remember all those people who said, hey, he's going to take votes away from Trump? Really? You think anybody who is in favor of reparations will get 1 vote, even 1, from a Republican? No. You will not get 1 vote. I mean, if I have anything to do about it, because now it's, now it's serious. There were a number of RFK Jr. policies that I didn't like, but I thought to myself, but if he got president, at least he has good character, and I feel like he'd tell the truth, likes his country, right? So I thought, maybe I could live with not having exactly all the policies that I think are the good ones. But no, reparations is, that's just a hard no. There's no negotiating. There's no wiggle room. That's just a no times 1,000. No, no, no. You are not going to be the president. So that pretty much guarantees Trump will get elected, but it also, I think, guarantees that you can stop saying, hey, maybe RFK Jr. should be his attorney general. Nope, that's not happening now. So he is now just a spoiler for the Democrats, which will be kind of interesting to watch. Well, I think the biggest story, and
so there you go. Scott Adams, a guy I admire, a guy that I think is a bright guy, but you should not rely on him for your news. I think he's got a great show every day. Kind of goes through the headlines. The problem is that's all he does is headlines. He doesn't actually read the stories. It's clear to me that he doesn't actually read the stories. He sees things on Twitter and he just accepts them as being true. And so if you just go through and accept things for being true, just because your favorite commentator says it, you're a sucker. A sucker. And I know you're not a sucker because you watch me. And, but we can all fall for this. This is really easy to do. And I've given you some examples of how easy it is to fall for this. Now, I just want to conclude by giving you a clip that was linked in the article of RFK Jr. talking about this. This is a really short clip, but he explains exactly what he means by reparations, and it's not your definition. It's not a regular definition, but this is what he says.
Me, the way, the reparations is about figuring out every way that we can to build black-owned businesses back up. And if you talk about it in that way, it doesn't.
Oh,
me.
Okay. So we've looked at the evidence. We've examined it for ourselves. We read the article. I didn't read it to you, but I read the entire article. And to me, it's very clear what RFK Jr. is talking about here. What he's saying is, in the past, some black businesses have been hurt by systems. And so what we can do is to build up black businesses, and that will benefit everyone. And in fact, the statement from his campaign said that whatever he does in the name of this, it's going to be such that everyone will be in support of it. Okay? So this clickbait headline written by someone who's an establishment conservative, who's getting a check from the establishment conservative stuff, right? Obviously is trying, you would think, oh, New York Post, right? The New York Post does break some interesting news, but it tends to lean a little bit more conservative. Well, in this case, if RFK Jr. is doing really well against Trump, wow, what can we do to combat that? I know we can make up a fake story from July and put it out, and all of these commentators, Tim Pool, Scott Adams, and endless others will just go, reparations? Oh my goodness, I don't want anything to do with that. And they didn't. None of them read the article. So I know I'm beating a dead horse here. It's so disappointing, though, because it wouldn't be hard. It's not hard to read an article. It's not hard to click a link and look at the video and see what he actually said for himself. But if I don't do it, I can't count on anyone to give me good information. I wish there were someone that had a show that I could watch, that I could get the news of the day, where they actually read the whole article. Like, that's how low our standards have dropped. We can't even count on the people commenting on the news to have read the article. Yeah. So this is just an example. Go to your favorite person, see if they've talked about this story, and see if they actually read the article either. Because, yeah, that's it. But next up, I got another thing to talk about, media perception and how things are framed. Okay. Boom. You might have seen this. Or maybe you've just heard the headlines. The headlines. Yeah, Georgia. Down in Georgia, there was a traffic stop, and it ended up in a fatal shooting of an exonerated black man, capital B. because that's 2023, who spent 16 years in prison for a wrongful conviction, and he was executed at a traffic stop. Have you heard that story? Well, let's take a look into this a little bit more, shall we? Let's just look here. Here we go. This is NBC News, and as I said, NBC News is always representing what the establishment in D.C. says. My soul aches. Mother speaks out after exonerated son is killed by Georgia police. And I feel bad. I mean, she lost her son. That's terrible. Okay. Let's just look at the first line here. Leonard Cure's mother held a photo of her son as she somberly addressed the crowd at a news conference Wednesday, 2 days after Georgia deputy fatally shot Cure during a traffic stop. Oh, that sounds terrible. Here's the LA Times. Video shows Georgia deputy fatally shooting exonerated black man during traffic stop. Of course, black is capitalized now. And look at the picture that we have here from the dash cam. Oh, the guy's getting knocked over by the cop. Let's just look at the first line. Georgia officials on Wednesday released body cam and dash cam videos showing how a traffic stop turned deadly between a sheriff's deputy and Leonard Allen Cure, who was exonerated and released from prison about 3 years ago after spending 16 years behind bars for a crime he did not commit. Well, that just sounds terrible. How did NPR cover this story? Leonard Allen Cure, freed after a wrongful conviction, is shot dead in a traffic stop. Let's look at the first paragraph here. Leonard Allen Cure spent more than 16 years imprisoned in Florida on a wrongful conviction, fighting relentlessly for his release before he was finally freed 3 years ago. On Monday, he was killed by a Georgia sheriff during a traffic stop on his way home from visiting his mother. Oh, he was visiting his mother. Let's go. BBC News. Exonerated man shot and killed in traffic stop in Georgia. A man was exonerated after spending more than 16 years in prison on a wrongful conviction, was shot and killed by a Georgia sheriff's deputy on Monday. Oh, that's terrible. And lastly, let's check out CNN. A wrongfully convicted man who was exonerated after 16 years is shot and killed during traffic stop. I'm surprised they didn't put black in the headline. The first line here, a Florida man who was exonerated after serving more than 16 years for a crime he did not commit was shot and killed by a deputy in Georgia during a traffic stop, according to a news release from the Georgia Bureau of Investigations. Well, let's talk about that. Oh, I have a different frame from the traffic stop. Now, I'm not going to play it because it's brutal. But what happens is this guy gets pulled over. He passes a cop, apparently, driving over 100 miles an hour. And he gets pulled over. The cop asks him to put his hands on the back of the truck and that he's going to be arrested. And the guy that gets pulled over attacks the cop. Look at him here. I don't know if you can tell, but he's got his hand on the guy's chin on his face. And that's the cop there that's being beaten up by the guy. Now, first he was tased. That didn't stop him. You know? Then I think he tried using a baton, I believe. That didn't stop him. And he kept attacking the cop when he was finally shot. Is that a little different story than the way that all of those corporate news headlines read? All of those corporate news headlines, and if you read the first line, the first paragraph of the story, that wasn't in any of them. And as we know, people don't read the whole story, do they? They read the headline. Maybe they read the first sentence. And all of these, NBC, LA Times, NPR, CNN, all of them put up a narrative that this exonerated black man was shot on a traffic stop, and they omitted the fact that he was attacking the cop. Okay, now you can think that you shouldn't be shot for attacking a cop. You might have the opinion that, you know what, if a cop pulls me over, I should be able to tackle the cop and punch him and beat him up. I should be able to do that, and he shouldn't shoot me. Maybe that's your opinion. Okay, I disagree with that opinion. But that's not being shared in these stories, at least not in the headlines, not in the first paragraph. So again, this is another example of how the media is giving you a narrative, and then if you count on a news commentator, you got to make sure that you're listening to a news commentator that actually reads the story. So that's just another example of the problems that we have in the world. Like, we don't know how to get the news because there's no reason to trust the news. There's zero reason to trust the news. So what are you supposed to do? I don't know. Maybe move to Argentina, right? That's the next story. Oh, yeah. Well, you know, folks, this Argentine presidential candidate, Javier Milei, is shaking things up. He wants to lay waste to the country's institutions and calls politicians useless parasites. I love this guy. Guess he's trying to trim the fat in politics literally. Here's the story. Javier Milei, an eccentric economist and self-styled libertarian running for president in Argentina. He's gaining support, promising to dismantle his country's institutions and attacking career politicians as useless parasites. Milei's main proposal is to dollarize the economy to combat hyperinflation. He's compared to populist figures like Donald Trump or Bolsonaro, and he lacks the same level of political backing. His unorthodox personality, economic ideas, and anti-establishment stance have struck a chord with disillusioned voters, especially among the younger generation. However, his radical policies and lack of political alliances may pose challenges in implementing his agenda if elected. So this election is Sunday. I'm so excited about this election. He is leading in the polls. We'll have to see what happens. But one of the things that he is proposing is to just move to the U.S. dollar because their peso is just such garbage. I know their inflation rate is at like 123% at last look. And I'm very interested in Argentina as well. You know, if you look into, like, currently, things are so bad there economically that you can't get a mortgage on any property. And so all property sales in Argentina are done with US dollars, cash on the table, right? No one can get a mortgage, which has made things really tough. Can you imagine if you were trying to sell your house, but the banks weren't issuing any mortgages to anyone? I mean, who are you going to sell it to? Perhaps BlackRock will move in and buy everything up. I don't know. I hope not. But anyway, I just wanted to bring this up because the election is on Sunday. I'm very excited about this, and I've always wanted to visit Argentina, and I think if Milei becomes president, I think I want to put it on my list and go within the next year. I really want to check that out. So anyway, that's exciting. But you know what? We need some good news. Finally, after all this nonsense that's been happening, let's get some good news. Well, you see, there's a study that claims that soaking in a hot tub is as healthy as going for a 30-minute jog. I've always preferred a glass of wine and some good conversation over sweating it out in running shorts, but hey, if someone asks if I exercise, I can now proudly say absolutely. Here's the story. A study conducted by Coventry University suggests that soaking in a hot tub for a half hour can offer similar health benefits to a 30-minute jog. The study involves 20 healthy participants, and their cardiovascular and mental health were measured. After immersing in a hot tub, there was a 345% increase in their blood flow to their legs, similar to what occurs after jogging. Heart rate increased by 31 beats per minute, equivalent to a brisk walk, and blood pressure decreased significantly, which is favorable for heart health. Additionally, cortisol levels, an indicator of stress, dropped by 22%, similar to the effects of exercise. So if this is true, and again, big if true, I need to get myself a hot tub because this would really be great. To me, it sounds too good to be true, but I think about it, and one of the things with exercise, now, again, cardio, like I teach cardio classes, so I know working out the heart is good, and you're not going to get that from a hot tub. But as far as burning calories, circulation, all those kinds of things, you might get a lot of benefits from a hot tub that you hadn't thought about before. And so I think this is exciting news. And at the very least, now you have an excuse to do some hot tubbing, right? And I will leave a link to this story, as well as all the other stories I talked about today, in the comments section of the video. But I think this is good news. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I'll be going through all your comments in the after show. Coming up right after the little musical break. I'll be back on Monday with some more news. I hope you all have an awesome weekend, and I'll be talking to you in the after show. Peace. So here we are. First up, checking out on Rumble, OX_00. Hey, Tom, it's Fact Check Friday, Tom. That's right. Tim Pool, he is clickbaiter. Loves the sensation. Yeah, that's the thing about Tim Pool. I respect his hustle. I really do. He works really hard. Don't get me wrong. I would love to have a tenth of the success that he has, right? So he works really hard, but the one thing that always bothered me is he just reads headlines. So yeah, there you go. Gonzo the Good hit me up with a little tip. Dropped your name in another stream with 4,000 viewers. Well, I appreciate that, Gonzo. I did see someone tweeted about that earlier, so I do appreciate that. We'll see if anyone finds the show. I don't know. I'm not getting my hopes up, but anyway. Tom, have you watched Redacted yet? Yes, I have watched Redacted. I think that they put together a good little show. That's the husband and wife, right? That's what I need. I need an attractive wife co-host. I'd probably have a lot bigger show if I did. I couldn't get Rumble to let me in with my new phone. I don't... keep trying. Keep trying. Rumble's been making all kinds of changes, and they're constantly updating things. So I know that they are trying to make things better. So Natasha says, Redacted comes up with lots of information you can't find anywhere else. Well, that's good to know. That's good to know. Lucid says he's been watching news outside of U.S., Sky News, etc. Redacted reports from Portugal, but in English. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. Reparations is a no vote from me, RFK. I like other things he has said. This is a deal breaker. Aha. Yes, Lucid. Exactly. Because if you just hear that he's for reparations, that can be a deal breaker for a lot of people on the conservative side. And this headline is coming from someone on the conservative side. Now, to me, I can't trust. I can't trust. And to be fair, I don't know if the author of that article had that headline. Okay? She may have had a really fair headline that said RFK hopes to put money into black businesses. That probably wouldn't get the clicks, though. And so I don't know who wrote the headline. But yeah, it is a total clickbait headline, and it did accomplish what it was meant to do, which was hurt RFK with conservatives. But again, why would you do a story about an interview from July unless there was some other motivation behind it? See what I mean? Breaking news 3 months ago, exactly. Scott Adams sounds like he has chronic nasal congestion. Yeah. RFK's voice reminds me of Audrey Hepburn when she got old. Very similar, in my opinion. RFK Jr. has a tough voice to listen to. I get that. Let's see. Skull, death, horse. I'm not sure what that means, Lucid Moments, with your emoji there, but let's see. It is all on purpose to shape people's minds. This is coming from Jesse. They frame their political opponents and count on people's lack of time to check all the topics. I agree. That's why people covering this should be the ones actually reading the whole article. And I got to say, Tim Pool, Scott Adams, you both suck at commenting on the news, because you're not commenting on the news, you're commenting on fake headlines. That's what you're doing. It's disappointing. And I like you both. But disappointing. And that's why, Tim Pool, right? You're a millionaire. You got this big empire. Hire somebody to just, maybe read the article for yourself, or for you. If you're going to comment on it, and then you can say it and just ask the person that you paid to read the article, just hire a fact checker. Hire someone, if you actually cared about the truth. If you cared about the truth, that's what you would do. But clearly, you don't care about the truth. Clearly. Matt Walsh covered this police story from Georgia, too. So, yeah, that's the thing. So people will cover the story when they know that it promotes their side. To me, the story is how the media is framing this story. It's as if they were really hoping to get like another George Floyd or something out of this, but then all the camera, the dash cam came out, and yeah, it's hard to sell if you actually look at the dash cam on there. The guy sounds very exonerated, innocent, and very dead by the police. Yeah. And again, it's sad that anyone, was shot for any reason. But it's hard. I don't know. Yeah. Wow, that's a telling photo. No way. What a different perspective. Yeah, exactly. Says, Lucid says he's been watching Middle East news. My opinion is different from the mainstream media. I've kind of intentionally not talked about the Middle East. I've been trying not to talk about it. Trying to just give you something else. If you want Middle East stuff, you can click on any other channel. I prefer margarita with my hot tub theory. So I like that too. I like a nice long jog. Used to jog marathons. Run only applies to 8-minute miles or faster. I disagree. Running is if you're exerting yourself over a certain level, in my opinion, right? I ran a marathon, and I certainly didn't run an 8-minute mile, but I did run it. I mean, it was pretty slow, but I considered it a run, and I'm not going to take that. But can you drink wine while running for 30 minutes? Aha, exactly. Hot Tub Friday. I like that. Personal hot tub, not community hot tubs. Okay, yeah, exactly. See, alcohol kind of negates all benefits. Red wine is supposedly good for you, so yeah, crank up the heat and the jets. Good for you for watching Redacted Tom, and Natalie Morris is indeed a cutie, isn't she? I think so. I don't know. Everything blends together for me. Wait, Walsh covered the police story correctly, like you did. Wow. Yeah. No, the thing is, like, everyone can cover things correctly. If it aligns with the narrative that you're pushing, then it's really easy to cover it correctly. Okay? The important part is covering it correctly when it goes against the narrative that you're pushing. That's kind of when it's important, right? Gonzo hit me up with a $5 here on YouTube. I appreciate that, Gonzo. Thank you much. Yeah, so that is it. That's the show for today. I appreciate you all so much. I hope I gave you something to think about and something to consider when you're listening to people. And you know what? You should keep that in mind when you're listening to me too. I do read every article that I talk about, but that's me. I'm a bit, autistic about that. I just I feel it's not right to talk about it if I haven't read the whole thing. I think it's wrong to review a book if I haven't read the entire book. I don't know. I'm old school like that. But you can always check everything that I say, because I leave a link to archived links to every story that I talk about in the comments or in the notes of today's show. So be sure to check that out. I think this story about Milei running for president in Argentina is a great read. I have an archived version of the Washington Wall Street Journal article on him from a couple days ago. I think it's a hilarious read, so you might check that out if you want to read something. Anyway, I hope you all have a beautiful weekend. I'll be back on Monday. Till then, peace.